You feeling better already? All right, let's break into secret number 2. Instead of working hard, grinding, and hustling, as so many people like to rant and beat their chest about these days, the super successful don't do any of that. In fact, they purposely set up their operating methods to avoid all of that. They use guidance and operational systems that make work fast, easy, and a whole heck of a lot less grinding and hard. With them, they are able to produce a mass volume of results, all performed with predictable excellence. How is that possible? How can they produce mass results fast and easy? Are they superhuman? Do they tear off their shirt and become faster than a speeding bullet, more powerful than a locomotive, and able to leap tall buildings in a single bound? Nah, not at all. They are just as weak, fragile, vulnerable as the rest of us humans. The only difference is that they use a jig. And it's the jig that brings the superpower magic. What's a jig, you ask? No, I'm not talking about the dance. I'm talking about the mechanisms in constructions used to reduce effort, minimize mistakes, expedite production, and significantly improve results. Doesn't that sound good? A way to reduce your effort, time, and energy output, and minimize mistakes, expedite production, and significantly improve results. That'd be nice, right? Well, then listen up. Let me explain the power of a jig. So when a carpenter wants to cut, let's say, half a dozen boards to the same length, he doesn't measure each one, mark it, and then try to guide his saw along the line, cutting one board at a time. That would be disastrous. That would take way longer, require way more effort, and most likely all the boards would come out cut very differently. It would be a cluster of sorts, just like the way we go about working all day. Instead, the smart carpenter, the smart super achiever, makes a jig. A jig is a device that guides a repeated action by constraining the environment in such a way as to make the action go smoothly, the same each time without having to think about it or exert much effort at all. For instance, meet A-Team ambassador Sarah Fowler. She has the task of cutting a dozen 2x4s the exact same height to make the wall of a treehouse for her kiddos. Meet the eager and excited kiddos. If Sarah was to try and cut each board one at a time, it would take forever, be taxing, and probably end up wonky, letting in the never-ending draft, bugs, or tree snakes. The kiddos don't want that at all. So Sarah gets smart, and she sets up a jig, which will make the task fast, easy, requiring very little effort, and predictable excellence. Here's what Sarah does. First, she lays the boards out side by side on a couple of sawhorses. Then she butts the boards up against the side of a house wall, aligning it and constraining one end of the boards. Then Sarah will measure the desired length of the first board and the last board, and then maybe snap a chalk line across those two marks. But Sarah won't just start cutting now. That would still probably create a zigzag result. What Sarah does now is she tacks a straight piece of plywood along the chalk line, traversing the whole array of boards. This will serve as a guide for her saw. Then all Sarah has to do is slide her saw along the plywood edge, taking very little mental resources or very little precision. And whammo bammo, she has 6 boards cut to perfect equal length. And you can see her family is pretty impressed and pumped up. So what the jig does is reduce the degrees of freedom, constant new choices and decisions that we're faced with all throughout the day that are inflicted in your environment. It stabilizes and secures a process. And in doing so, it lightens the burden of care on both memory and fine muscular control. It keeps action on track and requires less energy mentally and physically. This is how the superachievers produce mass results using less mental and physical resources, faster and with predictable excellence. And so can you. You just need to jigger your environment, your daily processes, your methods of operation. With the right jig system, you can execute with excellence, using far less energy and effort, and yet dramatically improve your desired results. Excellent execution, improved results, and less effort are what you want, right? You've probably heard the story of my chance encounter with a 94-year-old multi-billionaire. This guy started out in abject poverty, was one of the young men who stormed Normandy during World War II, got a Purple Heart for it, in fact. And when I met him, he was still overseeing 200 thriving portfolio companies managed mostly from his super yacht, where he spends most of his time, and also where I met him. When I asked him how he did it all, that is when he shared with me his sacred planning document. Essentially, it was his jig. It is how he set up a guiding system to focus himself each week. Once this jig was in place, which only takes about 15 minutes on Sunday, then he's able to execute mass results with clear, confident, peace of mind focus. I promise you, he works a lot less, using a lot less mental and emotional energy, running and overseeing and being responsible for 200 companies and tens of thousands of employees than you do running one business or running one life. How? Is he superhuman? No, he just has a jig. I hope that you're catching on here. When I applied his jig to my own life, I couldn't believe the results. And I'm not kidding. The very next year, all my important metrics doubled. My impact, my influence, my income doubled. And at the same time, I took more vacation that year than I'd had my entire life combined up to that point. And it didn't stop there. The following year, using that same jig, this sacred planning process, only spending 15 minutes on Sunday with it, and the next year, I doubled what I had doubled the year before. Again, every metric. Over the course of only 4 years since the time using this, all those valuable metrics, impact, influence, and bottom line, as well as vacation, time off, and real actual free time, 5x'd. 5x! Then the following year, this is last year now, we doubled that again. It's nuts. Yeah, now we're talking 10x. And I am not telling you this to impress you, only to impress upon you the power of a jig or a system to plan and guide your execution, requiring less effort, energy, and a higher level of cognitive functions all along the way. So does that sound like something you'd like to have? Key systems like this that have not only helped me, but they've helped many others that I have taught it to, like Michael Pollock here, who has a property management company. And this is what he said, quote, "I've read so many books on how to improve my self-discipline, but yet have not been able to change my behavior. It was hard to read all those books and then not be able to follow through and perform. I felt like something was wrong with me. This concept that you shared was like freedom. I don't have to fight my self-discipline any longer. I just need to use these mechanisms to eliminate choice and emotion in the first place. This is brilliant, a life-changing game changer for me." John Luxford, who has been in real estate in Windsor, Ontario, Canada for 20 years, so yes, this even works in Canada, John reported this, quote, "When you helped me apply these simple systems, what you taught me caused massive shifts in momentum for me. I generated $80,000 in new income the last 12 weeks, and I've lost 32 pounds in the same 12-week period." You see, these guiding systems will not only be a game changer in your business life, but it will impact your personal life as well, like it did for Francis Schmeling, who said, quote, "Absolutely transformational. This has not only helped me make more money, but helped me become a better husband, father, and business leader," end quote. And that, I think, is the ultimate goal. We're not just here to be a better achiever. We're here to be better in areas that really matter. At home with our family, a better role model for your children, and an inspiration out in your community. Now, you're probably thinking, wow, this sounds hard or difficult or complicated. Nope. That's the beauty. Like any job, it's all very simple if you have the right tools. Think about building a house. Imagine if you didn't have the right tools. How hard would that be? That's how most people are trying to build their life and operate their day, by brute force, instead of using the right tool to make every job easier, faster, and stress less. That's your second takeaway action item here. Install the right guidance and operational systems to make performance fast, easy, and predictably excellent, spending a lot less time and energy to produce those great results. Wondering how? Do not worry. The entire toolkit that you will need to install the right jig systems in your life, I have all ready for you. The very same ones the best in the world use to produce their extraordinary results. All you have to do is follow the very simple installation instructions step by step, and everything will get easier, faster, and more productive. Okay. Well, if that wasn't enough, are you ready for secret number 3? You sure? Because as I said, this is the big one. Now, what you've already learned would dramatically improve your success and drastically reduce your stress. But now we're going to shift into hyper